My name is Gretchen Baskerville, and I'm the author of The Life-Saving Divorce, Hope for People Leaving Destructive Relationships. I've been a Christian divorce recovery leader for more than 20 years, offering faith and hope to those navigating divorce and beyond. I have a degree in Bible from Wheaton College, and you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter and right here on my YouTube channel. So today's question is, what is a life-saving divorce? I've never heard that term, and yet you understand it already. We're not talking about an I'm bored divorce, or I miss the party life divorce, or I feel unfulfilled divorce, or an I found someone cuter or hotter divorce. We're talking about a divorce for very serious reasons. I define a life-saving divorce as a divorce to find relief from a marriage with a pattern of adultery, sexual immorality, physical or emotional abuse, addictions, or abandonment and neglect. Millions of committed believers, people in your own fellowship, fall into this category, and those who do would say, "Believe me, I didn't want a divorce. I needed a divorce." I don't know about you, but I've attended church from the day I was born. I'm a devout Christian brought up by loving, committed Christian parents who've been married 60 years and counting. I worked in Christian organizations nearly all my adult life. I've read Christian marriage books. I've listened to Christian radio. But no one ever told me this. In fact, my pastors always gave me the impression that 95% of divorces were for falling out of love, but the majority were frivolous. Now, I'm a bit of a nerd, and I love research, but it still took me a long time to figure out the truth because I wasn't even curious. I just believed what I was told. And I discovered that nearly half of divorces in the United States are for very serious reasons. Nearly half are life-saving divorces. Now I can see what's going through your mind. You're saying, wait, what? What's she talking about? Nearly half of divorces? Well, maybe in her part of the country. So I want to address you skeptics. Hey, I hear you. If you're doubtful, I understand. I was shocked to discover this too. I'd been told that most divorcees were quitters who just wanted to take the easy way out. I was brought up believing that divorcees were people who just didn't have the determination to go the distance like everyone else. From the time I was born, pastors, Bible study leaders, and Christian authors bombarded me with the message that divorcees just didn't believe in the sanctity of marriage and didn't value God's word. Divorcees were supposedly just looking to go back to the grass is greener single life. But those messages began to die about 25 years ago when I went through my own life-saving divorce. I wasn't looking for a grass is greener divorce. I was desperate to get away from destruction, to distance myself and my kids from the turmoil of my ex-husband's sexual addiction. I wasn't happy and optimistic about divorce or life afterwards. I wasn't looking forward to being single again. I was terrified. I started asking, why did this happen to me? How did a good Christian girl like me get into such a bad marriage? And are there other Christians who divorce for serious reasons? For goodness sake, I loved the Lord and I read my Bible all the time. I got a Bible degree from Wheaton College and had done everything right when we were dating. I had read Elizabeth Elliot books over and over and was a big fan of Focus on the Family. I met a guy at the church singles group and we had followed every proper dating step. I had prayed and fasted and journaled, begging for God to help. In time, I met others like me. And the quest to find answers started when my church asked me and another divorced mom to start a small group Bible study for single mothers. The Christian women in our group had the same questions I did. How could we have gotten into such bad marriages? Were these marriages just incredibly rare? Was God punishing us for some unknown sin we hadn't confessed? Or are terrible marriages much more common than we ever imagined? Well, the answer is destructive marriages are much more common than we ever thought. We weren't alone. For decades, family researchers have wondered the same thing. Why do people divorce? And they've done a lot of studies of divorced men and women who reported anonymously. I'm going to describe 4 key studies. If you hate numbers, just skip this part. But for the numbers geeks out there, let's go for it. Here are 4 significant studies. Survey 1, and I'm just going to number these studies, but you can find the sources for each one in the show notes. In the first study, the participants had had a divorce over age 40. Of these, 50% of the participants mentioned the most significant reason was adultery, sexual immorality, domestic violence, chronic emotional abuse, or abandonment. In Survey 2, this is a survey of participants ages 20 to 55. About 42% of those divorcees mentioned at least one of the life-saving reasons as an issue that caused their divorce. Survey 3. In this study, divorcees could select more than one major contributor to their divorce. 58% mentioned infidelity. 30% mentioned domestic violence. Sadly, the researchers did not offer drug or alcohol abuse as a choice. Survey 4. In this study too, participants could select more than one factor in their divorce. Infidelity was a major contributor in 59% of divorces. Substance abuse in 35%, and domestic violence in 24%. To summarize, nearly half of divorces are for life-saving reasons. These surveys indicate that somewhere between 42% and 59% of divorces are for very serious problems. So it's safe to say about half of divorces. For a long time, we in the church have tended to think about divorce and about people who have gotten divorced as though only 5% of those divorces happened for good reason. As you can see from these studies, that's simply not true. When the desperate spouse says, "I can't take any more suffering and betrayal," we can call it a life-saving divorce. And only the desperate spouse knows how much they can take or what goes on behind closed doors. No one else has the right to make that decision because no one else has skin in the game. Not the pastor, not their parents, not their friends or people at church. It's not their life, their children, their body, their wallet, their reputation, their credit score, their health, or their safety. So the messages that say 95% of divorces are frivolous are simply wrong. And the messages that say all divorcees are quitters, they are incorrect. And the messages that say all divorcees are people who don't value the sanctity of marriage, those messages are lies. You can love God and still get a divorce. And get this, God will still love you. Really. Are you in a destructive marriage, one of emotional, physical, or verbal abuse, infidelity, neglect? If yes, you know you need to escape, but you're probably worried about going against God's will. I have good news for you. You might need to divorce to save your life and sanity, and God is right beside you. In my book, The Life-Saving Divorce, you'll learn how to know if you should stay or go. The 4 key Bible verses that support divorce for infidelity, neglect, and physical and/or emotional abuse. 27 myths about divorce that aren't true for very many committed Christians. Why a divorce is likely the absolute best thing for your children, and 30 years of research to back up those claims. How to deal with friends and family who disapprove of divorce. How to find safe friends and churches after a divorce. Can you find happiness after leaving your destructive marriage? Absolutely yes. You can get your life back and flourish more than you ever thought possible. Are you ready? Then let's go. It's time to be free. Hit subscribe to my YouTube channel and watch the next video.